hope you can see me. I hope you can hear me. If not, let me know in the comments and like chat and whatnot. Because I haven't checked yet. Here we go. All right, I can hear myself. That is good. Anyway, hello everybody. It's a week early. I'm sorry, but next week I'll be probably freezing my ass off. If the last couple of years are any indication. Hey Kale, how you doing? And the Demidrack is there. How are you? Hey Ori, how are you? And Kadia. Chadia? I'm always like, how do I pronounce that? I'm so sorry. Chadia, Kadia, probably Chadia. I don't know. Well, my nose is nah. Hey Jin, how you doing? Anyway, talking about bottles, let's get this started. Cheers, everybody. How are you doing? I've had a more productive day than I thought I would because I reread the entirety of Lucky Day by Chuck Tingle this morning, and then I recorded a video on said book, which is good. And then, like, after recording the whole thing, I realized that I'll probably get like absolutely get fucked by like YouTube's algorithms and stuff because so here's the thing, like Lucky Day is an amazing book, and I'm talking about something that is sort of like what Lucky Day is talking about, and it's a philosophy thing. It's Albert Camus talking about philosophical suicide. And we all know how YouTube thinks about the like YouTube algorithms work about that kind of stuff. But yeah, so philosophical suicide is kind of the thing that I was talking about in that video. So we'll see what the algorithm says, and the AI like thing that tests whether I can get like advertisements or whatever on it. We'll find out later today, I guess. But yeah, um, I had to say the word a lot of times, and I refuse to use like dumb, stupid, like sounds similar kind of things because like fuck that shit. Like use the fucking words, right? Anyway, hey Britain, how you doing? Hey Ben, how you doing? Okay, Chadia. All right, good to know. I'll try to remember. Good luck with that one, Demidrak. I applaud you. I don't have any edibles here, so I guess I'll stick with beer for now. How you doing, Thornall? Well, Ori, I'm not on Nebula because, well, I wouldn't know how to get there, is my point. Anyway. And it's like one of those things that I'm always worried about, like with Nebula. Like I like Nebula as a concept, right? I think it's really good, and like all my favorite like YouTube essayists are all on Nebula, or at least most of them are, and I like that. I like it's awesome, but the thing is, like, the problem with that kind of stuff is that, like, you build like a community and you only get in if you already know those people, right? It's at some point it becomes more about like knowing people. It becomes more about like connections. Then it becomes like the quality or like content of like what you're doing, and more about like who you know. And that's kind of where I think Nebula becomes a bit of like a, well, not a problem, but like where it kind of stops being useful. You know what I mean? And once again, I like most of the like not most of the people I watch regularly are all on Nebula, right? Like, and they're cool, but that sort of like problem of like you can only join that club if you're friends with those people, and being friends with those people has something to do with the content you make, but it's also like very, very much about like where you're at, who you are, who you know, and so forth. That's something I fundamentally kind of struggle with. I feel I should know what that sports ball team is, Britain, but I because I know you have that fucking podcast thing with your dad, I think, about it, but I have like no idea because your sports ball is not my sports ball because I don't have a sports ball, but like even if I had, it would be foosball, which is very much not what you call football because you guys don't understand like what the word foot means, I guess. Anyway, um, I feel, Thornell, you're much closer to like Cohen the Barbarian on Discworld, who understands that like one of the things that are best in life is soft lavatory paper. So you're much more like a Cohen person, I guess. Well, I mean, there are people that play American football, and they call it American football around here. Those people exist, but like the thing that people in Germany play is Fußball, which is, well, soccer for you guys, for you heathens over there, right? um, no, that's like a massive thing in Germany. I'm not a fan, but it certainly is like a very important sort of like part of like a lot of like Germans' identity in a lot of ways. Wait, Daniel, are you part of the somehow suddenly organized Antifa, or did you do something else to become a terrorist? Because you know, I'll support you anyway, but you know. Well, Demetrek, good luck with that job in Marseille because, yeah, leaving that failed state sounds like one of the best things you can do right now. So, good luck with that. Yeah, like I and my we'll talk about like American politics in a bit. Don't worry. The Sven Hassel books, yes. Like once again, Thornall, I looked at it and I'm like, yeah, but there's so much to unpack around that. Like the guy actually, being a Danish, you know, at least Nazi sympathizer who tried to join the SS and failed like school, like SS school for like twice or whatever, and then doing the whole thing and writing his novels about like how they're like hating the political side. And there's a lot of like stuff that needs to be explored around that. And I'm not saying it's not worth it. I think it's absolutely worth it, right? But I don't think it works for like the um, Christmas kind of thing because like you know like two of his novels are translated into German and both were published by like a far right. And when I say far right, right, like absolute like neo-Nazi kind of publisher in Germany, like the kind of people that get raided the fucking German Secret Service every couple of years because they're like skirting like what's illegal all the time. So that's the kind of people that read Sven Hassel in German. So it's worth talking about it, but it's not something I want to do for Christmas because it kind of needs a lot of like context around that I don't want to do for like the winter holiday kind of thing. 'Cause, like I don't mind, having opinions and stuff. Like obviously I did that for like the Drizzt thing, right? But I want to keep it close to like talk about the content of the books and not going beyond that and doing like all the weird here's how I explain to you why the myth of the clean Wehrmacht is actually bullshit kind of thing, because it's like hours of content around that and research and shit, and I don't want to do that. So that's why Sven Hassel will not work for like the Christmas thing. Britain, The Longships by Sven. What's his name? Bengtsson. Is it Sven? The first name? Um, no, it's not. It's something else. Bengtsson. Anyway, The Longships is absolutely fucking amazing. The Swedish title is Röder Orm, and I highly recommend you read that. It's so fucking good. It's adventure. It's funny. It's really cool. Like seriously, read The Longships. It's so good. And now I feel bad because I remember I forgot the first name of the guy. You're right, biggest. Years and years and years ago, that was let me think about it, like 2008, I think. So 2008, I was at a heavy metal festival in Belgium. It's called Graspop Metal Meeting, and the bands playing there was like Kiss, Judas Priest, and Iron Maiden were like the Franz Bengtsson. Sorry, my brain. Anyway, so those bands were playing at the same time. It was like the European Championship of Soccer Championship, and the finals were at the same time as the Iron Maiden gig, and was Germany against Spain, and Spain won at the end of the day. But it was so fun because it's Belgium, right, and it's close to the German border, and Iron Maiden were playing like in the middle of the show. Bruce Dickinson, singer of Iron Maiden, was like, "So, um, who out here is German?" And a lot of people go, scream. I was like, "Who's Spain? Who's Spanish?" Like a couple of people go, and he's like, Oh dear. Well, Spain won. And then they continued. It was just like so funny. No, no, I have a video about the long ships. I think it's a brilliant book. It's amazing. Like seriously, it's really, really good. Anyway, Chadia, I too am in like a disc. I'm in like a Malazan mood. I've been thinking about like rereading Guardians of the Moon for the last like week at least, and I'm like, I should probably just do it and just like reread like all like 10 books and go from there, so I know what's what when No Life Forsaken comes out. So that may still happen. It's just like this like Malazan thing that like every couple of years I'm like, I haven't read Malazan in a while. I should probably go back. And that may happen in the next couple of days, because at the end of the day, No Life Forsaken comes out in like 6 weeks, 5 weeks, something like that. Tad Williams is really good. I still have to read The Witch with Crown. Terra Ignota is fantastic. I absolutely love it, but it's also like very much like the kind of book that was very explicitly written for me. And when I say very explicitly written for me, I mean like my PhD topic was early 18th century British deism, which is like very much like what Ada Palmer is like looking at for a long part of that. Like, you know, you got to do that. If you do that, you also have to read like 16th and 17th century stuff. And there's some like stuff in there where I'm like, this is like maybe 100 people reading this book understand what she means. Like in book 2 or 3, when Thomas Hobbes is like one of the narrators, right? And he mentions like Charles Blunt as like one of the his unfortunate editor, and like, and I've read Charles Blunt because that's like part of the stuff I had to read for my PhD. And like the moment where I'm like reading this and like I read a fiction book and it mentions like one of the most, well, not most obscure, like a very obscure kind of part of like English philosophy, 17th century philosophy, right? And I'm like, holy shit, this is like cool. Like I feel smart for once, and so that's cool. But like Ignota might sometimes edge too far into that sort of like you need to be really, really well read in some to appreciate how really cool it is. And if the other stuff doesn't like really grab you, I feel it can be like sort of like it can be somewhat frustrating to read, I think. Britain, yes, I have pre-ordered Shadow Ticket. I will read Shadow Ticket on day one because I am so fucking excited about it. I have not watched Kathy's stream because, well, I was sitting on my balcony drinking beer and listening to Tunisian power metal, I guess, for reasons, right? Those were good reasons, but that's kind of what I did. And then I listened to some Israeli prog metal and then to some Swedish glam rock. Who knows? Anyway, I was not paying attention to that because I noticed it was happening, but I didn't watch it. Like Who was on? Like Kathy and I assume Matt on books, but I have no idea who else. Here's the thing, like Terra Ignota is really cool, and you don't actually have to understand all the other stuff, right? Like, but I see the danger of like making you feel dumb because it does reference a lot of like weird shit. And I'm still planning to do like a Terra Ignota series of videos. And when I do that, I want to start with like doing like an introduction to like, Enlightenment philosophy and shit. But I'm like, hey, this is what you need to understand. This is, well, not what you need to, but like, if you know these things, it will make it much easier to actually read Terra Ignota because now you know shit, right? That's sort of like what I want to do because, as I said, like, I feel like I'm particularly qualified to talk about that because that's literally what, you know, I never finished the PhD, but I did like a lot of research and I've read a lot of, I can tell you exactly which kind of books Ada Palmer read as part of the research for this, right? Like, I know what she did. So I feel like doing that as like an introductory video might be actually helpful for people to, feel less daunted by the whole like thing. I'm done with Redwall. I mean, I will still like read the rest of Redwall at some point because they're really good, but I don't know. No, Charlie, I have not. So here's the thing, like, looking at the poll, everyone wants me to do like an end of the year kind of thing, and I have paid attention to the comments. And next week I'll put up like another poll where I'll ask for people's opinions, like which one to pick. And there's like a lot of like stuff in there. As a like a Thornall suggestion of the Sven Hassel stuff, I will not do because it doesn't work. Um, I'm still like tempted to go and do Left Behind because it's like 13 books anyway, so it fits perfectly. But it might also be too dark. This Pern or a suggestion of the Vlad Taltosh series might work. So I'm going to collect like a number of stuff from from the comments and put all of them into like a second poll where people can vote on those, and then I'm gonna pick one of, you know probably pick the one that gets the most votes, unless it is very much unfeasible. And then that's what will happen. But yeah, that's how I'm planning to do that. Oh gods, Vampire the Masquerade. Like, I played Vampire the Masquerade when I was like still at like high school, and I don't know if I want to go back to that level of like edgy goth thing, right? Um I mean, at that point, I'll just go and do the thing that Ben has not suggested in public, but and just like read like I don't know 13 any type of like Vampire Hunter books in like one go and talk about those. It, that sounds more, how can I say that, productive, I guess. Shadia, well, I'll try my best. Like the main book that I think I'm 100% sure that Ada Palmer has read that one is The Radical Enlightenment by Margaret Jacob, which is all about how Freemasons started the Radical Enlightenment. And I know you started, uh, to light the light, to like the lightning. So you know why I think that is the book that she read, right? And but yeah, I think it's important. Well, not important. Like I think it helps to sort of like get more out of the books if you have the context. But I also think that it's like really helpful to actually know stuff about like intellectual history and like and history of ideas and whether where the enlightenment kind of came from and what the enlightenment did and both the good and the bad stuff. I know you suggested it here, Ben. It's more about like you haven't suggested it explicitly for like the Christmas kind of thing, right? Anyway, my point is, Enlightenment history is really important. The problem is like if you want to criticize it, there's a really important book that is doing that, and it's called The Dialectics of Enlightenment. Unfortunately, it was written by Max Horkheimer and Theodor W. Adorno, who were both members of the Frankfurter Institut für Sozialforschung. In English, that is the Frankfurt School. They are cultural Marxists. Well, I mean, you know, point is, looking at the Enlightenment and understanding where the problems are is important. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to do that in today's kind of climate because, like, the ghost of Jordan Peterson will jump up behind you and talk to you in the voice of Kermit the Frog, and then you'll be, haunted for the rest of your life. Anyway, I was going to say something else. Anyway, sorry for being distracted. I'm trying to finish editing my video. Which is, me typing stuff into like the command line, which sucks. But I seem to have succeeded, so we're good. That is unfortunately true. Like, speaking as someone who has avoided cleaning their room as an act of rebellion against Jordan Peterson for years, I'm like, you know, It's absolutely fucking messy, and I hate it, but can I? Can I? Em It's difficult is what I'm saying. But, what can you do? But yeah, going back, like, I'm very close to just, like, restarting, reading, Gardens of the Moon, because it's been, like, 3 years since I last read Gardens of the Moon, and I'm sure I'm gonna find new stuff this time around. And my problem is, like, in a lot of ways, like, because my brain is fucked, right? And my problem is, like, if I'm not, like, sort of, like, reading something, I struggle with, like, actually talking about it because I forget stuff immediately. Like, I can remember, like, weird details and stuff, but it's very difficult. And I'm like, there's, like, things I want to talk about. There's, like, videos, Malazan videos I wanted to make for a long time, like, but I can't do that right now because I, I would want to reread the book before I can actually make that video, because I want to make sure that I get, like, everything correct and everything. So if I go and reread Gardens of the Moon and reread, like, the entirety of the Malazan Book of the Fallen, it means I can finally make that video about, like, eco-terrorism and the Perish Grey Helms and stuff, and things like that. Actually think it's easier to pitch Gardens of the Moon to someone who has little knowledge of fantasy compared to someone who thinks they know a lot about fantasy, because those people are like, oh, I need these and these and these and these things. And Gardens of the Moon is very different. So, phew, how would I pitch that? Um, I would go and say, here's a book about a bunch of, like, drunk idiots with their heart in the right place in a pub who tried to save the world, and another group of people that really have to follow orders even though they hate it, and everyone kind of trying to survive. That's what it is. And there's also dragons and demons and shit, but mostly it's about, like, people trying to do the best they can under the circumstances. And that's, I mean, going to the moon is kind of weird because you have the bridge burner stuff that's sort of, like, front loaded, and then you have the Ruzistan things around, the Phoenix Inn, and the Phoenix Inn stuff is very much like, it's more like a comedy kind of thing, right? It's like everyone hanging out the Phoenix Inn, and everyone being kind of quirky and shit, and all of them having their hearts in the right place and trying to do the right thing, but also everyone being very clearly flawed in one way or another, right? Like, Ralik Nom is, incredibly angry and, the hardcore assassin kind of guy, right? And Cole obviously is, the drunk guy who doesn't get anything done because, of that thing. And Crocus is, like, the teenage boy who, well, he's a fucking kid, and that's fucking frustrating and annoying. And Murillo, all of them have, like, a very clear, like, character profile that has, like, a very clear sort of, like, weakness, and someone else in that group is able to sort of, like, cover that weakness. And it's much to, like a 90s, like, rom-com kind of thing than anything else, right? Like, or That is also very true. The problem is, if you say someone who doesn't know fantasy, they won't understand Orc Psyker because that is already like pretty deep in. They might understand Howl's Moving Castle because it's a Studio Ghibli film, so they don't understand that it's Diana Wynne Jones' novel before that, and all of that. But they might understand. They might know Howl's Moving Castle because they don't think of it as fantasy. But like, if someone understands what an Orc Psyker is, at that point you can just like lay it on. Is what I'm saying. Well, that's really cool. Biggest like wait. So they get like an actual like minted coin with the book. That is so fucking cool. Like I don't need the Czech version of the printed book in any way possible, but I might need that coin. I might have to figure out how to get that. Yes, Thornell, I know that. They're called dwarves. Yeah, please do, Biggest. That sounds really cool. So like anyway, what have you guys been reading over the last couple of weeks? Like, because I figured I might just ask that at some point because I've been reading weird books and rereading weird books and stuff, and well, I just reread Lucky Day by Chuck Tingle today, and it's actually really good. Um, Before that, I was you know well, I read Golgotha by Lavi Tidar, which is one of those books that is like really hard. I still don't understand like why no one is fucking talking about it. Like I was the first person to rate it on fucking Goodreads, and I'm like, how does that happen? Because it's published by fucking Bloomsbury, right? It's not like obscure in any way possible, but apparently they didn't like actually hand out like any ARCs or anything of the sort. So weird. I would love to have like a Malazan Muppet movie. That would be like really good. How's the Buffalo Hunter? Because I've been like sort of like thinking about like reading that one because it sounds like something I might really enjoy, but I haven't gotten there. Where did you learn that John Steinbeck was an ass? I mean, I'm not disputing it because probably, but how did you learn that? Anyway, yeah, I was. So I'm still like trying to figure out what to do next because I might still go back and do like the whole like the thing I wanted to do, which is make like a series of videos for like one video each for each of the Earthsea novels by Ursula Le Guin, because I think they're really good, and I think they're really interesting to see how an author changes over time and finds different things to focus on and still be themselves. I also get like really fucking mad at like Jason Furman, which I always do because like fuck that guy. Sorry, sorry, Britton. I know he's your friend. Anyway, going like it's over. Calling a Wizard of Earthsea overrated is just like one of the dumbest takes I've ever seen. And that's after him not liking Garden of the Moon, which was also like a really dumb take because his reasons are like really stupid. Like A Wizard of Earthsea is a really, really interesting book and does a lot of really interesting a lot of things that I feel are important to understand. And if you dislike it in the year 2025, what it mostly says about you is that you are, well, incredibly poorly read and have like no understanding of the history of fantasy, the history of literature, and anything of the sorts, which is fine if all you're saying is, this is my taste. But if you're making like any claims beyond that, well, you're lacking all qualifications to have any fucking statements. Like, you know, I wouldn't make any claims on a lot of stuff because I don't know anything about it. But like, anyway, my point is, there's a lot of interesting stuff to be said about like Earthsea in all kinds of ways, and I'm still thinking, because the AI video is taking longer than I thought, and I'm like, at this point, shouldn't I just like wait and like 2 more weeks so I can also read Enshittification and read Gilded by Jacob Silverman, which will both absolutely add to the video. Ooh, how you liking that, Max? Because I don't know, like I still have to start. Like I haven't read any T Kingfisher, but I think it's one of those she's one of those authors where like everyone is like, some people go like, you really should read this, and the same people go like, you'll probably hate this, and I'm like, that's interesting. Yeah, that doesn't sound too good. John Steinbeck. Yes, a Thorn. I did like do videos for every Black Comet novel. I haven't done a video on Poor Shadow yet, but all of the others, I have videos for each of them. They search. I might have like the quality might vary, is what I'm saying. Okay, so here's the thing. Part one. Wizard of Earthsea is not the original Harry Potter book. I fucking hate that everyone's like, oh, she took the idea of like a wizard school from a Wizard of Earthsea, and I'm like, yeah, there's a wizard school, but like if you read a Wizard of Earthsea, the wizard school is such a small part of the story. It doesn't like there's a lot of other stuff that is in Harry Potter that has like nothing to do with fucking Wizard of Earthsea. So that part, I'm like, come on, just because there's a school for wizards, like, where do you think wizards learn how to do wizard stuff? Like, it didn't take fucking Ursula Le Guin to come up with the idea that sometimes wizards need to go to school, right? Like, come on. So that part just like really frustrates me because like reducing Wizard of Earthsea to like the wizard school part is so, I don't know, insulting because most of it is about like other stuff. All right, Chadia. So here's the thing, like, it's fine to dislike a Wizard of Earthsea, right? Like, personal taste is one thing, right? Like, there's a lot of like stuff I dislike. The question is like, do you say it's a bad book? And that's kind of where stuff gets different when you have a YouTube channel and you make statements, public statements about the quality of a book. And at that point, you kind of need to do something else because you'll be like, hey, I read A Wizard of Earthsea. I think it kind of sucks because it didn't really entertain me. That is fine. But if you go and claim it's a bad book, you need to actually make, you know, do something about that. And A Wizard of Earthsea is not a bad book, like on an objective level. And we're talking about art and stuff, and the fact that I like it is probably coloring my opinions. But there are some very objective things that you can say about A Wizard of Earthsea that make it a book where someone has spent a lot of time thinking about what they're doing. Plus, obviously, I mean, it's not perfect. I mean, Ursula Le Guin didn't really like the book at the end of her life, right? There's stuff going on there, but my point is, it's not a bad book. It's a very interesting and very important book for what it does and what it tries to do at the time it was written. And you can ignore all of that, and then you're Jason Furman, which makes you, well, a person with a very, very, very sort of, how can I say this without calling me an idiot? Someone with a very limited focus. Let's put it this way: someone with a very limited focus and a very limited understanding of what you know literature actually is, and that's where I'm going to leave it. But like, disliking it is fine, but it does some really interesting things. It may fail when it comes to like entertainment, but it does some really interesting things. And the main job of literature is not to be entertaining. That's like one of those like weird sort of like misunderstandings, I think. And something I've been thinking about like recently, in some like other way, right? Is the idea between like that there's a difference between an important book and a good book and a popular book or a successful book. And because we kind of tend to fold all those three things into one, we're losing a lot of like analytical sort of like nuance that I think is important because there are books that are really important, incredibly influential, but they are really, really bad, like objectively wrong and shit, right? And there's stuff that is like incredibly successful and leaves like no impact on like the larger like form of literature afterwards. And those are still like successful books, but they're not important. And the question is like, are they good or are they bad? And I think like we need to sort of like be aware of the difference between those different um between those different sort of like elements of what we mean when we talk about something. Yeah, you're right, Ori. That's kind of the point, right? Like, I really love I was reading a lot of Ursula Le Guin's nonfiction stuff over the last weeks, and her nonfiction stuff is so good because that's kind of when she doesn't have to sort of conform to a specific vocabulary or anything of the sorts, so she can just be as mean and as angry as she wants to be, and she's like Ursula Le Guin is one of the funniest angry writers I've read over the years. Like, holy shit. Like, angry Ursula Le Guin is so funny and so angry and so important. And I wish more people would read her nonfiction stuff. And that as an accompaniment to her fiction is just so good. And it kind of comes back to that whole idea of the death of the author and stuff like that. And it's like, no, death of the author is an important element, and I still very much agree with death of the author. But on the other hand, if an author has things to say and you are aware of those things, you pay attention to that because they wrote the thing. They may change their mind. They may have views on that stuff. They may also just be really, really angry with you and themselves and the world, and it make you a better person to pay attention to that as well. See, the thing, Chad, yeah, I would love to read House of Leaves, but I can't. I mean, the problem with House of Leaves is, of course, that layout and stuff is super fucking important to sort of the way it does its storytelling, and that is something that doesn't translate into audiobook, or I mean, even if I go and just get an ebook version of it, it wouldn't translate. So that makes House of Leaves yeah, very much inaccessible to me, which sucks because I think I'd really yeah. Anyway, so yeah, reading more Ursula Le Guin nonfiction, I think, is one of those like I highly recommend everyone doing that. And even if you I'm kind of frustrated that people only read from Elfland to Poughkeepsie. Poughkeepsie? However you pronounce that. How fucking New Yorkers. Anyway, from Elfland to Poughkeepsie. Anyway, um, it's an interesting thing, and I know Philip Chase made a video about it, and it does say some really interesting things about the importance of picking a specific form of language for fantasy that does imply something, and I think that is valuable and really, really good, right? But I feel like most of Le Guin's interesting and important essays are far more explicit, far more direct. I think the one that I like right now that I highly recommend everyone should read, and I hope it's available somewhere in for you to get without resorting to crime and stuff, is it's called A Princess Story, A Princess Tale. Let me find out because I think it's so good. It's called The Princess, right? It's from Ursula Le Guin. It's talk she gave at, I think, either a Planned Parenthood thing or another like convention around abortion and stuff. And it's Ursula Le Guin talking about her own abortion she had as a student when it was still very much illegal, and talking about like the ability that she could get that because of like the privilege of being white and having like fairly rich and socially connected parents and stuff like that. It's an incredible text. I highly recommend you read that because you know, looking at the world that we're living in right now and looking at the US and laws in the US right now, this is like insane. But like, go read that text of the Princess Ursula Le Guin. It's essential, is what I'm saying. And that's kind of the thing, right? Like with the game Le Guin is like it's always it's fantasy or science fiction, right? But it's also very much always concerned with the world that we live in, with like stuff that is happening right now. And so much of like her like essays are about like, and that's partly because of her father, right? Like Krober, what's his name, um being like a scholar, like an anthropologist who took a lot of like mostly worked with like finding different myths of like Native Americans and like connecting all of that stuff. And like you have like all these like diaries, like travel journals of Ursula Le Guin traveling through the US and making like pointing out like how places are now taken over by mostly white people and are ignoring and whitewashing and eradicating and taking over places that have you know different local like names by different tribes, the different people that lived there before, and how like entire histories, entire people are vanished by that. And that is something that Le Guin always brings to whatever she does, right? And and the fact that like when A Wizard of Earthsea first got published, they put Get on the cover, and Get is suddenly white, and it's very explicitly said in the book, in the first book, that he has copper skin. And I'm like, yeah, Le Guin has a lot of reasons to be very, very angry, is what I'm saying. And when you read her nonfiction, she does not hold back. So read Le Guin's nonfiction because it's really good. Kat, yes, you should read some Le Guin. Like all of it is really good. It's also all over the place, and some of it is messy because Le Guin, and it's one of the things I love about Le Guin is like the way she does change her mind over time, the way she's willing to critique her own stuff. And you read something like The Left Hand of Darkness, which I think is an insanely good book. And I know Chadia doesn't like it, and I understand why. But like what I personally appreciate about it is you read that book and then you read her essay, Is Gender Necessary? And then you read her re editing of that essay and how she changes her mind over time and sort of like goes back and goes like, well, I fucked up there. And then like another 10 years later, it's like, I fucked up when I said I fucked up there because I fucked up even more. And that editing is from like 1989. She goes like, well, clearly what I needed to do is actually have fucking neo pronouns because pronouns do in fact actually matter and shit. And that's like 1989, and I mean we're still talking about that fucking shit right now. And that is just like impressive in a way where someone is like constantly sort of like reevaluating their own sort of like position as someone, born in like 1929 and sort of like becoming a feminist over time and trying to wrestle with what that means and trying to wrestle with all these other elements. And I think, so like when you read Ursula Le Guin, both like her fiction and her nonfiction, what you see is basically an author who's like working on the engine of what drives them and what drives their fiction, and having the hood off and like letting everyone else watch while they're sort of like changing parts and modifying the engine that drives them. And I think that sort of like being able to sort of like witness the process of like someone doing art and changing over time, I think is incredibly valuable. And also like just like shows how much like fucking integrity someone like Ursula Le Guin had over time. I mean, you can do that. Like, what I would suggest, Kat, is read Lavinia first and figure out if you can actually do that. And if that works, then absolutely go for it. But like, make sure that you know what you're doing by help, like on a practical level. See, here's the thing with like the word for world is forest, Chadia, right? Like, Le Guin did not actually like the book that much afterwards because it's like, yeah, it was too direct. Because it's clearly for her, it's very much about like Vietnam, and she's like, yeah, I was like stuck in Britain at the time on like she was at a scholarship, whatever, residency, whatever kind of thing. So she was stuck in Britain at the time. Before that, she was like obviously marching against Vietnam and all of that, and she was stuck in Britain and could not actually protest. I mean, she could still protest, but like obviously Britain wasn't involved in the Vietnam War, so she was like had no way of like actively doing something against it. So all her like resentment kind of flowed into the novel. That's her claim, right? And she's like, it's too simplistic and too angry, and it kind of channels her frustration with not being able to do anything as a person. And I get what she's saying. I still also agree that it's like a really, really good book, though. I agree with you because I love it. But I see where she's coming from with that like whole yeah, writing books is good. Like what you actually need to do is like be out there and throw rocks, I guess. And a lot of like her books, whatever you read, is like there's always a lot of like nuance and a lot of like a lot of that stuff is like very open ended way. She does not actually give you like a obviously correct answer. And the word for world is forest. Um, the word for world is forest is very very direct in its messaging, and like I appreciate that, but I understand that like for someone who is trying to have like openness when it comes to like discourse and stuff, how that can in hindsight feel a bit too direct, I guess. Well, it's Genli Ai who hangs out with the person on, and I'm missing names right now because it's been a while since I last read Left Hand of Darkness. But yeah, obviously, the people on that planet are androgynous and only develop a specific sex during Kemer, which is their sort of like thing that happens every couple of months, I guess. And no, I think like Left Hand of Darkness is interesting for what it is, but it's also like written in like fucking 1967 or something, right? Like that's like fucking 50 years ago, more than 50 years ago, right? So going like, hey, this does not like add up to contemporary feminist thought is like, yeah, of course it doesn't. The Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir does also not exactly hold up today. I just really love the idea, Charlie. Like, on the one hand, throwing rocks. I'm not saying anything about like using violence against police on YouTube because it's still YouTube and everything. What I still find so fascinating is that idea of like we're gonna designate Antifa a terrorist organization. And I'm like, Antifa is not an organization. There is no such thing as Antifa, right? Like you're Antifa if you're an anti-fascist, and you might go back and look, hey, being against fascism is probably a good thing. So there's no such thing as an organization that is called Antifa. So the whole like we designate Antifa a terrorist organization is meaningless on the one hand because you can't do that. And at the other side, it kind of allows you to just like target anyone. You could just like claim people are, Antifa. And there's a German punk band, and I try to not, go into German punk rock and stuff like too much. And one of their songs is called "If You're Not Antifa, You Are Far," which complete the words and you kind of understand what this is about. And it's one of those things that I feel we often misunderstand and or ignore is like if Antifa means you're against fascism. So if you are not an anti-fascist, right? Like because this is like one of those like very few things where you're like it's a yes or no kind of thing, right? Like you can't go like, well, I have no opinion on fascism. It might be okay, it might not be okay. Like, you sure about that? Like seriously. So the rational choice should be to be an anti-fascist, right? Like that's the goal, right? Like because if you're not an anti-fascist, you're a fascist, and do you really want to be a fascist? And there is no middle ground, and the fact that there is no middle ground is one of those things that we need to make clear, and one of the things we need to make everyone understand. And it's the fact that the right wing has managed to actually make people believe that there is a middle ground between being a fascist and being an anti-fascist is yeah, it's insane to me, right? Like it's fucking ridiculous because no, it's like you're a fascist or you're not a fascist. That's like it's it's a yes no kind of question. No, no, no. Here's the thing, like Thornall, I don't think fascists would be okay if I were the leader. Like that kind of people suck. Um, I don't know if you've ever like watched. Wait, I was reading a book recently, and I was trying to, and now I'm trying to remember which one it was. Anyway, someone was talking about the Lubitsch comedies, and if you have never watched any of those, I highly recommend watching some of those 1930s, 40s, and 50s comedies. And I need to find the English title because the German title is obviously different from the international title. All right. So yeah, it's the Ernst Lubitsch. Yeah, it's To Be or Not to Be by Ernst Lubitsch from 1942. And if you haven't seen that one, I highly recommend you watch that. It's also got some it's got some insane Hitler jokes in it, which I think is totally fine for like a 1942 film. So yeah, here's my movie recommendation for the day. To Be or Not to Be by Ernst Lubitsch from 1942. It's interesting. Ninochka is also really funny if you want to have like a really hard, really dumb jokes about communism. So watch both of them. Like anyway, like watch Ernst Lubitsch movies. If you want to see some old black and white movies that really go fucking hard. In all kinds of ways. See, right? It is so fucking funny. Glad you saw that. It's so funny and it's so good. Anyway, so yeah, um, exactly. So yeah, uh, sorry, I got sidetracked. Anyway, I need to get back to where we were talking about before I said like watch more Ernest Lubitsch movies because it is so fucking good. Anyway, to bring this back to books and stuff, I'm currently trying to figure out what to do next week because like next week is hard because I'll be helping out friends. Like we're organizing a festival. We're organizing a heavy metal festival next weekend, so I'll be doing stuff over the weekend from like probably like Wednesday or Thursday on. Which means I don't have that much time to record stuff unless I record it before that. And I'm still trying to figure out how to do the fucking like AI video, which is getting more and more complicated. And and I'm trying to figure this out, and I'm like getting more and more like sidetracked by other stuff that I feel like I should probably add this in there. So I'm like, should I just like wait until next like the week after the festival and just like do something else during the week and I don't know, talk about like a random book that I should have talked about like weeks ago or whatever. And I don't know. It's all weird. Is what I'm saying. And yes, Thornell, it was a very funny movie. I saw that in like the actual theater because we used to have the thing, classic sneak, which is it's like a sneak preview, but it's a classic, and you paid we had to pay like €3.50, right? Like you didn't know what to get. It's just like a movie that was older than 25 years or something like that, right? Like so uh more like 30, older than 30 years, like 80s or whatever was like the cutoff, and you didn't know what to get, and you went to the theater, and it was always interesting. It was mostly really good. I saw the first Mad Max movie in the theater there, and I saw Dirty Harry in the theater and stuff like that, and Charlie Chaplin's Modern Times, and well, Ernst Lubitsch's To Be or Not to Be. But Kat, for that, I would have to actually figure out how to do like TikTok. um, I always feel like maybe I should actually try to, because like I've been talking about TikTok over the years, right? Like not over the years, but like over the last year, because I'm always annoyed when like booktubers like yell at TikTok and BookTok for being like, surface level and bullshit like that. And I'm like, maybe I should actually watch some book talk so you know, kind of I can prove that I actually know what I'm talking about. Well, Kat, the Lucky Day video is currently rendering. It is. Let me check. It is about halfway rendered at this point, so I can help. I it's going to be up very soon. This one does happen. Yes, here's the thing, like the theater here does have like it used to have both. You have like a classic like sneak preview, which was like stuff that was upcoming, and then like once per month you had like the classic thing where you got like a really old movie that you were probably never expecting to see on like on a big screen. Um, on the like normal sneak preview thing, I didn't get to see Waltz with Bashir, which is one of those movies I annoyed a lot of people in that theater at the time because they were expecting like a Hollywood kind of thing. And if you haven't seen Waltz with Bashir, I highly recommend you watch it. It's not going to make you very happy, to put it mildly, but it's an interesting kind of movie, is what I'm saying. It weren't there when I said that like earlier, Kat, but like Um, I talked a lot about philosophical suicide and Albert Camus in that video because that's kind of a thing about Lucky Day. Anyway, I hope like I mean, you didn't say anything afterwards, but like I hope you really enjoyed Lucky Day until the end because I think it's a really good book. See, that's kind of the point, right? Like, a lot of booktube does these days, like, and I'm obviously careful when I call something booktube, but like a lot of stuff is like so like actually content empty. And what I said earlier on Jolene's Discord, like about that video about a birth of the dynasty, is like you could condense the whole thing into like a 30, like maybe 40 seconds, and you wouldn't lose a lot because anything else I can just like get from the back cover. And beyond that, it's like, hey, I like this. It was really cool. And I like the fact that it was slow compared to like some of the standalones. And I'm like, yeah, that's fair. But like nothing beyond that. So I know what you mean. And and not to get to like too deep or whatever, but I was thinking about that recently, and when I was reading and rereading and rereading Immediacy by Anna Blue, which I think is like a really essential kind of book to read if you want to do like critical stuff around how we talk about media and so forth. The fact that so much of like what we do, what we get when it comes to like book reviews or whatever, right? So much of that stuff is just retelling the plot up to the point where you want to stop, you know, because of like spoilers or whatever, right? The fact that we are focusing on like the literal things that are on the page and are not going beyond that and are not looking at like themes, or even if we're looking at themes, we're just like spelling them out and not going beyond that. The fact that we're ignoring like symbolism, the fact that we're doing all of that. And I think there is something to be said about that. And I'm always careful because I don't want to go like, oh no, technology is like the blight of humanity, losing a civilization, it's downfall of the West or whatever. Like, because that's bullshit, right? But let's be clear, that's bullshit. Like, there is a thing going on. It's frustrating. That is very much about like focusing on like the literal things that are in the text and not going beyond that. And I don't know what to do about that because you know you can't force anyone to do anything about it. But it's still like I remember like reading, not reading, like watching like booktube videos doing like spoiler free reviews, like, and this book focuses on themes of and it goes like themes of motherhood, and I'm like postpartum depression. Are you talking about like protectiveness? Are you talking about like, but like good, like the character work is incredibly good and it focuses on these themes, and like that's not actually saying anything, and you need to actually say something, unless you just want to raise like signals and hope that's enough. And I don't know what to do about that because clearly that's what's working. See, I understand that, Cat, right? Because it's I personally struggle to get emotionally invested with Chuck Tingle as well, and partly I think that's because of the voice he chooses, the voice, the style he chooses, but it's also like it's often so very specific where it's like very difficult to sort of connect to that unless you're like exactly the kind of person that you know he's writing about. I did like with this one with Lucky Day. I think the depiction of depression that you have in like in the third chapter, like when Vera is just at home and you're not doing anything and sort of like vanishing from the world, and that chapter I think was very, very powerful. That was like, if you ever struggled with like depression, that felt like very, very real, I guess. And then, it kind of gets so over the top that it's kind of difficult to talk about, you know, connecting to that like on an emotional level. But like I feel like that chapter with, her like, just watching the ceiling and just eating ramen noodles and thinking about and whether she should actually, pay attention to the cat and let the cat, about caring and stuff. That was like that was brutal in a lot of ways for me at least. But, you know, it kind of moves beyond that very quickly. So that's and as I like even beyond that, it gets like over the top really quickly and stuff like. But I did really that part was like the whole like, yeah, I'll just like look at the ceiling and see how things change at the ceiling or don't. And as someone who has certainly had the depressive episodes, I it felt very real, is what I'm saying. Beyond that, as I said, like it gets over the top really quickly. But like, I mean, I've said that this before, and I'm saying that in the video as well. Is like I struggled with Lucky Day because the whole like gambling Las Vegas casino kind of setting is so far away from my reality. I'm like, you know, I don't gamble. I don't care about gambling. It's, the whole over the top kind of Las Vegas thing is so far away from me. I'm like, I struggle to connect to that. But I still learned a lot, and I think it does some really interesting, good things on an intellectual level, especially for for an author that is still kind of best known for their dinosaur erotica. I'm like, no, this is someone who really knows how to do fiction stuff and is very, very deliberate about like what they do and how they use their skills, and that is something I just really appreciate about it. I think for me, Bury Gaze is my favorite Chuck Tingle novel so far because I know it just does kind of work better for me. But like a lot of that is just like me being closer to that. Well, space raptor butt invasion is certainly a thing, and it exists, and I highly recommend you read it. I mean, maybe don't. I mean, but yeah. Chuck Tingle's Dinosaur Erotica is actually really good. I haven't read any of the other Dinosaur Erotica, which exists, and I think it's way less queer than Chuck Tingle's Dinosaur Erotica. So there's that. And Ravaged by the Raptor doesn't sound as good as like my what's it called? Um, my favorite one is the Quay gay triceratops billionaire craves gay ass. No, it's like something like that, which is one of the ones that I've read. So my billionaire triceratops craves gay ass. That is a Chuck Tingle short story that I can't recommend it, but it's certainly it does what it says on the tin, is what I'm saying. Because it's all about like his former pet triceratops became a football star and thus a billionaire, and then they meet for a just to hang out, and then it turns into like very explicit gay sex with the triceratops. Um, so yeah, read that or don't. Um, but yeah, it's I said, like, I think it's interesting to see how much sort of like understanding of fiction Chuck Tingle does have, and when it comes to like the connections he draws and the stuff he does put in there. It's also like a very sort of like modern style of writing that I find interesting because I've seen people going like, "Oh no, it reads like a Tumblr post," and I'm like, "Yes, it does, but that's the fucking audience, right?" Like, I mean, Chuck Tingle is writing as you know someone who grew up on Tumblr for people who grew up on Tumblr. So using that language is not exactly a sign of like losing literary ability or whatever, because language changes, literature changes and stuff, and you can read those books and understand that there's clearly like more than just like I can speak Tumblr speak, right? There's a lot more going on, but it is still very much targeted towards that specific audience, which is amazing because you know that's a large part of the population of at least like the English speaking Western Hemisphere, I guess, at this point, and that's kind of what Chuck Tingle is for. No, it's very much American football. Yes, that's where you want your Triceratops, because for for like soccer you want I guess like a T-Rex might be like a good sort of like soccer player, because you know you don't need like arms for that kind of shit, right? Is what I'm saying. Well, John, I can't help you with that one. I would argue that you can totally put that in your work, whatever you do, because, that's art, but I don't know the context, so I'm not going to go beyond that. Also, biggest, yeah. Well, I mean, I assume you haven't read that yet, biggest, but there is Pounded by the Pound, which is all about Brexit and queer sex with a pound coin for reasons. But yeah, I still don't understand like the whole like I mean, obviously it's bullshit, and we've all talked about this for like uh, centuries at this point. But like, how can you call American football football if like so much of it is just like throwing the thing around? Just call it softcore rugby. I mean, which is fine, right? But like, I don't know. One of those like weird things. Anyway, no, but like, I am going to read Shadow Ticket as soon as it comes out, which is sometime in October, like early October. Anyway, I'm going to read Shadow Ticket whenever it comes out. That's the goal. And don't shame me for reading a lot of like Chuck Tingle short stories. It's just something I do, right? Oh, 7th of October. That's like in 2 weeks. Fuck yeah. All right, that's gonna happen. The difference between rugby and football is, as far as I can tell, the difference between like actually playing sports and playing chess on a lawn, I guess. No, like, so here's the thing. Like, one of my former flatmates, and that's been like years at this point, um, was part of the women's rugby team of my university. So I spent a lot of time hanging out with the women's rugby team. And what I've learned about rugby is it's basically um, crawling through mud and punching people, and sometimes throwing a an egg-shaped ball into something. But like mostly, it's about like being knee deep in mud. And what I've learned from like football is that it's all about having getting paid like millions and millions of dollars for not actually doing that, because someone can always call like stop, and then everyone has to do some complicated math to understand where they're standing and shit. But that's me not understanding sports, right? Like, but like rugby is like, you know, doing violence to like the actual ground and the people opposed you, and stuff. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. Like seriously, let's just say that hanging out with the women's rugby team was a lot of fun. Really cool people. Lots of drinking, is what I'm saying. Also, I will never ever want to fight any of those people because they'll fucking absolutely break every bone in my fucking body. Is what I'm saying. But like cool people. Yeah, rugby is fucking tough. Like when you say hockey, though, are you saying like field hockey, or are you saying like hockey on like skates and shit? Baseball, I don't get. Like baseball is so fucking stupid. It's like, why would you complicate the whole thing, which softball or whatever it is, and by using the thing you could also use to actually do political action, and instead you're just like punching around a ball. It's like, what's the reason for that? That's a bad combination, Thornall. I'm sorry about that. Um, no, but like there's like a okay. So when it comes to sports, I'm like, I kind of hate sports in the way that I mean, I think sports is good. I hate sort of like, and that's like a very personal like thing that is like nothing to do with like the larger thing, right? Like German soccer sucks because like every time I need to take public transport on a weekend, I'm fucked because all of those drunk football fans, soccer fans, are just blocking all the trains. And if you want to change trains, you have like all those fucking cops, which are cops, which are fascists, um, blocking off different, connections to trains because we can't have like the fans of like this one club moving over to this other like platform because the fans from this other club is like, I'm not a football fan. I just want to actually go to this other place for whatever reason. It's like, no, we can't have that right now because and the fact that like sports fans kinda get to ignore the entirety of like law pisses me off because either we have law or we don't have law. And like I personally don't need those kind of laws, but at least make it make it equal opportunity for everyone and not just like for people who are fans of fucking FC Köln or whatever, right? That's bullshit. And that's kind of where my personal like disagreement with like a lot of like German football kind of comes from. Um, want to say something. See, here's the thing, like field hockey, I'm really bad at field hockey. I like skating though. At this point, because I'm blind, I'm kind of like people try to keep me away from skating because you know I'm too fast for my own good, which is a general problem. But like I love skating. Like ice skating is one of the things that I really fucking love, right? Like and you get like so fucking fast and you can do cool shit and you do that on like a public ice place and people don't know you're blind. You get into like a lot of trouble because there's a lot of like fucking amateurs out there that like get really annoyed if you just like plow into them. So yeah, that's a me problem, I guess. No, John. The deal is absolutely the eye. That's the point. I don't know if you're aware that, like, obviously, I have the wrong bottles with that, which I'm kind of glad for. But yes, the deal is that if you're really cool, you can take one of those like classic bottle with like the pop off bottle caps, and you can just like use your like you know the bone because what you need is just an edge. There's like you can open a beer bottle with a fucking paper napkin if you want to, right? That is possible. And yes, opening that on your eye hole is totally a thing. Um, I'm not recommending that, but yeah, it's possible. See, I think there is something to that cat, right? Like the idea that like sports events sort of like add a way to channel a sort of like national identity, national pride, and stuff like that. That is certainly a thing. The question is always like, do you actually need national identity? And that I think is sort of like where I always say like, nation states are a bad idea, and we need to go back before that because yes, we can stop like I mean, Germany can stop invading Belgium, which I think is a good idea. But having fucking, I don't know, Bayern München fight whatever the club in Ghent is in football doesn't actually change the thing because it's still about like a national identity that is a fucking construct, right? Like, and Ghent is not Belgium, right? Like, it's just like fucking, it's just like a Flemish, right? And Bayern München is just like Munich. It's Bavaria. It's not Germany, right? Like, and having those like ideas of like national identities are bullshit, is what I'm saying. And they're a construct and an invention of the 19th century, and we should totally leave those behind. And just using sports instead of like actual guns does not actually solve that problem. Well, Bex, your kiddo does have a really good taste in music, is like from what I can tell. Um, so they're good, mostly. I mean, if they keep listening to propaganda, I think they're good. Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, no word is cat, right? Like at the end of the day, like sport is less harmful than trenches full of like fucking poison gas and shit. Like, sure, but should we kind of get beyond that? But yeah, it is what it is, and I guess we have to live with that because you got to channel the all that toxic masculinity someplace, and if it's all like drunk people in train a fucking stadium to do whatever they do in a stadium, then that's fine. Which, on the other hand, like, and to be clear, like, I've not been to sports events, but I've been to concerts and stuff. Like, I do understand like the fascination or like the power of like being in a crowd that just like everyone does the same thing. It is. It is incredibly fucking powerful and it's great. It feels really good. Everyone singing the same thing, everyone like doing the same thing. It feels fucking amazing, right? And I don't want to take that away. I just wish it would, be completely uncoupled from like political. And there's so many like, sports stuff that is still like I mean, you go to fucking Lazio Rome or whatever, and they're fucking anti-Semites to the fucking means, right? And this is the same kind of there's a lot of like racism and like sports shit going on because that sort of like disconnect between politics and sports hasn't happened really. Like, well, no, I'm not sorry, Bax. If they're listening to propaganda, if they go to listen to some no facts and bad religion and stuff, like that's good. That is like healthy musical education, is what I'm saying. I am not a liberal music listener, but I appreciate what you're saying, John. See, that's the thing. There is no such thing like from what I'm saying, like unless you have like actual like sources. I would say there is no such thing as like modern stoicism beyond, yeah, gym bros, which is I fucking hate the whole, like, the way that, like, stoicism, and I was never, like, a big fan of stoicism because, you know, not my kinda, you know, sort of like vibe, but the way that, like, especially, like, the far right kinda adopted, like, stoicism really fucked me over. I'm like, "Look, Seneca sucked, but he doesn't deserve that, right?" And it's frustrating. I don't know. All right, Thornell, in case you're misunderstanding, I was talking about Propagandhi, which is a punk band from Winnipeg in Canada, which I highly recommend you listen to. They're really good. Anyway, um, Ben Shapiro kind of fucked me over. I mean, beyond anything else, like Ben Shapiro talking about Charlie Kirk was like, um, I know we're getting down like some dark holes here, right? Anyway, he was like, Charlie Kirk was like introducing people to like Christian values like the Bible, free market, and family. And I'm like, I read the Bible like several times in different, translations, but I'm pretty sure that the free market does not exactly show up in the Bible at all. And if we're talking about family, I don't know. You read the story about Onan and all the other stuff? Like seriously, like anyway, I mean, obviously, those people don't take anything seriously, and religion is just like another tool they're using. But holy shit! Um, all right. Yeah, I'm trying to get back to something that I can talk about, and like, I can talk about Charlie Kirk, who sucked, who was a piece of shit, and like, so I said that like I think I said that in like the last like navel gazing, which like probably not that many people watch, but like here's the thing: the far right is engaged in a very aggressive war on reality at this point, and it's about trying to change the perception of reality and all that kind of stuff. And you can make that very very clear and all that, right? I don't have to imagine stuff. There's like Kevin fucking Roberts, president of the Heritage Foundation, the guys who did like you know Project 2025, going like this is an this is like the second American Revolution, and it's going to be bloodless and if the left allows it to be. And I'm like, at that point, you're actually saying a lot, and most of it is like you're a fucking fascist asshole. But like, and we can go through all of that, but and Charlie Kirk was part of that. It's like, do I personally think that it's okay to just like shoot people? No. Do I think it really sucks for his daughters or his kids? I think they're both daughters. I don't know. It really sucks. Absolutely. Does it personally suck for his wife? Yeah, absolutely. But like, you're still a fascist piece of shit, right? And it's important to understand that, like the understand like personal suffering and like general effects are different things. And Charlie Kirk is just such a good for that because yeah, I don't have to feel bad for like anything beyond the fact that like yeah, I feel bad for his kids and his wife because losing someone sucks, and shooting a random person is not going to solve our problems. That's clear, but like he was still a piece of shit. Bex, like from what I've seen from like Erica, like Charlie Cook's wife, she's worse than him. She's like, holy shit, like the cries of this widow will echo like a battle cry around the world. Like, fuck you. Like, seriously, I I understand you're grieving, right? But what you're doing right now is like spreading hate and making money out of it. And you know what? That's the thing that we've always had, which is like when fascism and capitalism combine. And that's a thing that's been around. And I don't have to like it. And that's the point. Like, fuck you. And I think it's important to be able to say that because, you know, no, no one should be killed. And random insane people using guns to kill people is bad. Having like a open carry thing on your fucking university campus might also be bad. Like I can't I can't stress enough how weird it is for me as someone in Germany to look at all of that and go like, so it's fine to just like walk on your university campus with a fucking assault rifle, and that is just like okay, right? And I'm like, and you think like nothing bad will ever happen? You sure about that? Like, you're seriously sure about that, right? That's beyond any politics, right? Like, seriously, right? You you want to use your brain at some point? Apparently, you don't. But that's when like Charlie Kirk was spreading hate, and we don't have to like go beyond anything. Like seriously, the man was a piece of shit. The man was actually grifting, but he was also very clearly denying the humanity of a lot of people. He was making fun of like queer people. He was making fun of Palestinians. He was making fun of a lot. Like Charlie Kirk was a piece of shit. That does not mean he has to die, right? That's the point. But I don't have to feel bad for him afterwards. I said, like, I feel bad for his kids. I feel bad for his wife up to a point. I've seen the video, and at that point, I don't feel bad, but, like, on a, like, a human level, like, holy shit, like, this shit sucks, don't get me wrong, right? But, yeah, I don't know. And that's just like the local thing, and that's beyond, like, all the other stuff that's happening in, the US with, like, Jimmy fucking Kimmel, the most milquetoast fucking liberal you could ever have, going like, "Hey, maybe Trump wasn't exactly mourning him, like, all the fucking time, and suddenly he gets, kicked out and stuff." Like, I don't know. Like, as a German, I was always like, "Hey, don't use parallels to, like, 1930s or whatever, because it's cheap and it doesn't go anywhere and all that stuff." Like, but, like, fucking hell. Like, you're trying real hard to get as close as you can, right? And that is so fucking frustrating. It's like, what you gonna do? Like, and that's kind of the thing that I'm trying to figure out. It's like, what can you do, right? What can you do? The thing is, and okay, how can I put this? Anyway, um, I think the whole way this has gone down is bad, and I. All right, to bring this back to, like, the Kevin Roberts thing, because I think it's important to actually look at that, right? Like, Kevin Roberts, you know, president of the Heritage Foundation, in charge of, like, Project 2025, going like, this is the second American Revolution, and it will be bloodless if the left allows it to be. What that says is, on the one hand, like, we don't like the world right now, because what a revolution means, and let's leave aside for now that the fact, like, America has never had a fucking revolution. That's the point. Like, outside of America, we call it the American War of Independence, and that's a very different thing than a revolution, because America has never had a fucking revolution. Anyway, point is, a revolution means you overturn the status quo because you're unhappy with the status quo. What that means is, like, you start the whole thing. That's what a revolution means. And that's, like, the most important part. If Kevin Roberts, if the Heritage Foundation goes like, this is American Revolution, and going to it's going to happen, and it's going to be bloodless if the left allows it. That means the right says, the far right, and the Christian far right at this point says, like, hey, we're gonna change the world right now, and you can either roll over, or we're gonna fucking, kill you, which is, what that whole quote says. And I personally think there's a lot of things to be there's a lot of stuff to be, disagreeing with and stuff. But I think it's important to understand what that language says, what what that says about, like, their sort of, like, self-image. And, if you claim that it's gonna be, a bloodless revolution if the left allows it to be, and then a very clearly not left-wing person does do the blood thing, you know what? That's not up to me. That's not my problem. And I don't know. It's just so fucking frustrating is what it is. No, no, Thornall. That's the point. Like, when Americans talk about the American Revolution, what they mean is them going like, "Hey, we don't like Britain. We want to be our own country," which is not how revolutions work, motherfucker. I've, and that's the point. Like the whole like, what is a woman kind of thing is such a fucking dumb bullshit kind of argument, right? Like, a woman is someone who wants to be a woman is a woman if they are sincere and everything, and I can't judge that. That's what we have to do. And yes, I know I live in Germany where a fucking neo-Nazi just did like, hey, I'm a woman now, put me into women's prison, and then they didn't even go there and just like ran away and whatever, right? Like, and that is a problem. But like, as someone who does actually believe in, humanity and shit, we kind of have to deal with the fact that like some bad faith actors are fucking dickheads and assholes and all of that. And as soon as they reveal themselves as such, they should actually be, dealt with like the maximum of force. But until then, we need to be able to do that and go like, well, if you are a woman, I'll believe you. Unless you say something that makes me very, very clearly believe that you are not. And that happens. And at that point, you know, you'll get the absolute violent fist of gender retribution. And that is what you'll get. But like, until then, I'll trust you because I know. And this may come as a shock to conservatives and stuff, but like, there's this book I read, right? It's called the Bible, and this is the idea that you actually forgive your enemies and that you believe your enemies and do all of that stuff. It's kind of in those like four books that are called the Gospels. I you know probably not worth like actually paying attention to, but like, here's the thing. I, as a person, believe that like, if someone claims they are who they are, I will believe them unless until they do something that makes me not believe them anymore. And if they have betrayed my trust, I will absolutely fucking punch the living hell out of them because, you know, don't do that. That's the fucking thing that like makes humanity work, is like, we trust each other. If you break that trust, yeah, you're done. But until then, you know. Like, one of the main things that like is important to understand, like, beyond anything else about like Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro and all those people, is like, the things you see are edited clips. Like, they cut out all the other stuff, right? Like, you get like only the owns, right? That is important to understand. Like, yes, they may not cut anything within that specific clip, but like you have a media trained person like fucking Charlie Kirk who goes up against like a really nervous like college student. There's a power difference already there. And if in a specific meeting there's like 10 people absolutely fucking owning the living shit out of Charlie Kirk and one person flubbing it, right? What do you expect that Charlie Kirk will publish on his YouTube channel, right? Like, this is important to understand. Like, there is like no fairness there. There has never been any fairness there, and we need to understand that, right? That's kind of where the whole thing starts because it is about like who has a platform and who doesn't. Anyway, the thing is, Charlie Kirk died, and that's that. And I don't care. He was an evil motherfucker, and I don't shed a tear for that guy. And the fact that the entire United States are turning around it right now because of, you know, the guys you voted in to power for reasons, well, it's kind of scary. But I can't change that because I'm on the outside. But like, holy fucking shit! Like I don't like Jimmy Kimmel. I didn't like him, but like that's scary. And I mean, as I said, like I was always like, hey, don't compare like what you're doing in the U.S. to like fucking Nazi Germany because Nazi Germany was like different. At this point, I'm like, yeah, it's different, but the same. Like, you know how history repeats itself first as like tragedy and then as farce and then as shitpost. And yeah, you're in the shitpost era, but you're still repeating the same fucking thing. And it's so fucking frustrating to see that. Hey, also, how you doing? Well, John, no, I am not. Charlie Kirk was an evil person. He was an evil piece of shit. And don't quote me on any of this. Don't go like, oh, but like you seen the things he said about like his like if he had a 10-year-old daughter and she was raped and he would totally force her to actually give birth to that child. You've seen that. Like I'm sure you have, and I'm sure you can rationalize that and all that. Like he was an evil fucking piece of shit. He was a grifter. He was a fascist. He was a yeah. I think the world is better off without Charlie Kirk. I don't think it doesn't. It changes that much because there's enough people to actually take his place. But I'm not gonna mourn that fucker. And I think it's important to understand that like we don't have to mourn that guy. I still feel bad for as I said, I feel bad for his kids because that's like a personal thing. That sucks. Seriously. But yeah, if if someone is a piece of shit, we gotta be able to say he's a piece of shit. Photo. Yeah, that is true. That is so fucking. Oh god, that is so fucking awesome. Also, I like. Wait, like, are you? Wait, you're doing both the script and the art for it, or is that like a like just you kind of project, or who's also involved? I mean, I still know like the story of the comic, but like I'm like, are you doing this on your own, or is there like more people involved? Anyway, let me do something. Ooh, well, my lucky day video has in fact fully rendered. Let me see if I can upload it while we're doing like this whole thing. I might be too dumb to do that. Anyway, my point was like the far right is doing like a war on reality, and they are the ones who started it, and anything beyond that is just like them fucking up, and we need to fight back against that all the fucking time. And I hate to be as partisan because, I'd rather, I mean, obviously, I'm an anarchist. I don't want to be, anything else, but like, you go, we are starting a revolution. That means you are the aggressors. That's kind of what, you know, doing a revolution kind of means, right? And eh, I don't know. I've read this book. It's called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And there's this part about the Serious Cybernetics Corporation and its advertisement department. And I feel like a lot of people who are currently doing work in the Trump administration would fit right in there. Um, just, because it's the same attitude to reality, and it'll come with some consequences at some point, I hope. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, I guess I'll never actually come to the US at this point, because that country really values like free speech, or so I've heard. All right. At least I'm uploading the Lucky Day video, so some, you know, productivity is actually happening while I'm, hanging out with you. And talking about like how one country is like descending into fascism, while my country is also descending into fascism, because of course it is, because the whole thing about like hegemonies is that like once the US goes, everyone else also goes. All right, I'm trying to I'm trying to get through all of this. So you do all of that. Like that's awesome. Also, I'm so awesome. Yeah, I love that. I mean, knowing what it is about, I think it's going to be amazing. Yeah, yeah. I did in fact like the VR. I think actually much better than people give it credit for, because everyone goes like, "Oh, it's just like Guy Gavriel Kai going like old Tolkien." I'm like, yeah, but hey, he does a lot of like interesting other stuff. Also, he was just like active editing the fucking Silmarillion, so you can't, blame him for being, influenced by Tolkien and stuff. I think it's good. No, I like the Fiona of our tapestry. I think it's good. Yeah. That's I mean, yeah, see, here's the thing, right? Cat, right? Like actually publishing something like that is fucking expensive, so I get it. But it's like, what you gonna do? It's like, if you can't afford it, it still kind of sucks, right? Um, so I get like both sides of this, where I'm like, Chadia, use the wrench, have fun, enjoy it. I hope so. Anyway, anyway, let's get back to the program. Anyway, um, I wish I were on drugs. Anyway, um, so yeah, when you were asking that biggest though, what do you think of the Fiona Bar tapestry? Because I think you know, it's far from perfect, is what I'm saying. But I think there's some really interesting things in there. We can see someone trying to figure out how to do fantasy, and I said it like earlier when I was talking about Ursula Le Guin, right? Like when you can see someone like doing fantasy and science fiction and having like the hood open and you can see them, working on the engine. And I feel like the Fiona Ward tapestry is similar to that because you can kind of see someone trying to figure out how to do fantasy, and it's very very open. Like you can see the engine basically, I think, in the way he does sort of like do stuff. But I do really enjoy how he does actually do the one like sensible solution to the whole like fucking Arthur, Lancelot, Guinevere kind of thing. Because basically, what it boils down to, this is a spoiler for the Fiona tapestry by Guy Gavriel Kay. So ignore this for a while if you don't want to. But like, what he does is like, you have Lancelot and you have Arthur and you have Guinevere, and what if they just like have a threesome and everyone is happy? And that's the solution. I'm like, yeah, that's solid, I guess. So I'm fine with that. And the fact that like it took until like fucking Fiona War for anyone to actually do that was it's kind of depressing, I guess, when it comes to like general like understandings of sexuality. But yeah. So here's the thing. I think the Fiona War tapestry is really cool and really interesting in that it is someone who, as I said, like worked on like Tolkien stuff before writing their own like fantasy trilogy. So there's a lot of Tolkien in there, and it goes beyond that, and it does some really interesting things around that, and it takes in like a lot of like psychology, like a lot of like Jungian and Freudian psychology, which I personally think is mostly bullshit. Like both that is mostly bullshit, but it does some really interesting things around that. Like, and I feel like it's the whole the whole fucking booktube thing, and everyone is like, oh. Gagaruka is amazing, so we're gonna read Tigana and whatever comes after that, but we'll never talk about Fionavar because it's the first one and it's so close to Tolkien. It's like, yeah, but as I like fucking Gagaruka worked with Christopher Tolkien on editing the Silmarillion. Like, if there's like one person outside of Christopher Tolkien who's got a right to do Tolkien adjacent fantasy, it is Gagaruka. And if there's like one person you should pay attention to when they write fantasy and look at like how they're sort of like distancing themselves from Tolkien, it's also Gagaruka because it is, it'll tell you a lot about like the genre as a whole. And the fact that like everyone goes like, oh, it's just like a Lord of the Rings ripoff, which it isn't. Just annoys me, but you know, it is booktube, and what can you do? People be stupid is what I'm saying. Yeah, Daniel, but that's the point. It's like it doesn't have to be sort of like the plot motivator because it isn't within the Fiona tapestry. It isn't. It's like what if they're just like happy as a threesome. And then you got to deal with like all the other stuff around that, and yeah, it leads to other problems, but it does fundamentally change sort of like the understanding of like what we can do around that. And especially when it comes to like fucking Arthurian literature, I think it's helpful to do that because so much of our like Arthurian literature is all about like the who's our best boy? Is it Arthur or is it Lancelot? And I think everyone is like doing their thing, and then it's so fucking frustrating because why? Right? And it leads to some really, really dumb shit. Like really dumb shit. Like, well, the one that everyone is talking about, which is of course Bernard Cornwell, and I'm not saying anything about it. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but like the whole homophobia and other bullshit that is piled into that specific Warlord Chronicle is its whole thing, and I am glad I don't have to talk about it, and I'm glad I don't have to interact with anyone who has opinions on that. But yeah, it's bullshit, is what I'm saying. Good night, Kat. I hope you get some rest. I think like I don't know. Like I've read like Fionavar, and I've read Tigana, and then I stalled on A Song for Arbonne, which I still have to get back to because that's, one of those things I started when I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna talk about like Guy Gabriel Kay because I can explain how to read fantasy through different lenses. And Song for Arbonne works for that. If I want to talk about, historical fiction and stuff. And then I get like so frustrated by it with the whole like dick sucking situation, and I'm like, come on, that's over the top. Like even for you, come on, it's so stupid. And just to be clear, I'm not against like dick sucking situations. I just think the way it is used in that scene after the introduction and everything, and the way it is used to make the northern French court come across as like fucking sexist assholes, basically. Which, you know, they are, but like everyone else is also sexist assholes. We're still talking about like fucking like 77th, 8th century fucking France, right? Like no, 7th, 8th. We're talking about like 12th. Anyway, point is, it's frustrating in its crudeness, and I was expecting more. Is what I'm saying, and it just really pissed me off. I still have to read beyond the first. Wait, I've read the first two ones, right? Like, and there's like a third one that I haven't read yet. Um, but yeah, all right. All right, we've come to that point. Can you guys entertain yourselves for like 2 minutes while I take a piss and find some new beers because I have run out of beers and also bladder, but you know, one of them is more essential than the other one. So yeah, I'm gonna do that. You guys make dumb jokes and stuff, and I'll be back in 2 minutes with another beer, and we'll have like at least one more beer, and then I'll probably go to sleep because it's like it's almost close. It's almost midnight. It's like 10 to midnight, where I'm at. Anyway, see you in like 2 minutes. God. Here we go. The fact that I actually have to clean up, you know, tomorrow is one of the like really scary things that, I mean, not scary, but like kind of wake up and like there's all these like empty beer bottles and stuff, and I'm like, holy shit, did I do all of that like last night in front of a camera? I'm so I'm so fucked. Anyway, cheers everyone. I see you had fun while I was away. See, here's the thing. Like, I was like, after the whole like first one, which I keep forgetting the name, but like the third one coming out this autumn is called Brigands and Bread Knives, and I'm like, Travis Baldry, like, I know you got a good thing going, but like, seriously? Like, where's this going, right? So I'm sorry, like alterations as also alterations are kind of fascist. I shouldn't say that, but like that's kind of where, if you know your Wagnerian pseudo German kind of thing, it is that alterations are what people think that Germanic poetry is like. So brigands and bread knives and bookstores and bone dust or whatever it was called, and whatever the first one was called. Like you're inching close to that, at least after the third one. That is indeed something that makes me very sad also, that the fact that I can't actually see the artwork because, I know, I know the story and everything, and I'm like, this is so fucking awesome. And I wish I could see it, and um so here's the thing. Um, so, okay, several things. Like when it comes to RAF, there is the German thing, which is like obviously the Red Army faction, which is like a German left wing terrorist organization in the 60s and 70s and 80s and all the way to the 90s, which is also like, RAF, and there's a lot of like ambiguity. The thing is, also, and I'm gonna message you about that. I have friends who play in like a really angry thrash metal band from Mexico. I might just be wearing their shirt right now. I'm not sure because I don't know what shirt I'm wearing right now. But like the band is called Strike Master from Mexico City, and with the whole thing, the topic of your of your like comic story and everything. Once that thing is done, I think there might be like potential to actually have like something to work on as like a sort of like corporation kind of thing. And I'd love to actually make that work. So yeah, I'd love to do that because yeah, I know because I know, but it might just be like in a Mexican thrash metal dress. I'll do my best. We'll see what happens, but I think it might work. Because take some of the like once it's done, take some of the panels and combine it with like some thrash metal for like a music video or something that would work really well. I'm for now. I'm like surprised that you know what kind of legs I have, Bex. But yeah, le- no. To go back to like books and stuff like and not talk about politics and like how the world is like absolutely burned down by fucking fascists and shit, which it is, right? Um, I was like struggling with the whole like thing where I'm like, I want to do the AI video, and I've gotten most of it like done, but like in 2 weeks, like on the 7th of October, Gilded Rage by Jacob Silverman is coming out, which is all about Elon Musk and the far right radicalization of Silicon Valley, does which is important when it comes to like why the whole like AI thing is really bad because it's a lot of Nazis doing Nazi things. Um, so I'm like, should I wait or should I not wait? And well, I guess at this point, I should just wait because it's only next week, and on the 29th, I have the fucking teeth kind of surgery where they put like the implant in. So you know, it's gonna take some while and until I'm able to talk again and shit. So probably who knows. Good night, Chadia. Good night. All right. Oh no, Thornell, I'm sorry. Good luck with that. I hope you can work this out. Get some peppermint tea. It might help. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Also, have you read the Elizabeth Hand? What's their name? Cass something detective stories, because I think because they're all about like a punk in New York over the 70s and 80s, and a former punk dude, which is I guess as close to like what Elizabeth Hand is as you can get. They have like all these very specific like photography kind of titles, and I'm trying to remember the titles. Give me a second. Casneri, that's the title, the Casneri series. But yeah, Generation Loss is the first one. Yeah, check that out. It's it's about like a punk photographer in New York doing punk photography and crime shit. So yeah, check that out. Also, Elizabeth Hand is Elizabeth Hand, which is one of the best and smartest storytellers around. Yeah, the Castaneri novels. I think you might really love them. I mean, it's Elizabeth Hand, and all the other stuff is also really good. I still have to actually get Elizabeth Hand on for an interview, because when I talked to Lavitidar, he was like, Elizabeth Hand is supposed to have the best Lavitidar impression that is around, but he has never heard it. And like, if I ever get the chance to interview Elizabeth Hand, I gotta make her do the Lovey Tidar impression so someone can actually judge that. Anyway, I think both like Wilding Hall is just like one of my favorite books of like all time, which is so fucking good. And Waking the Moon is amazing, and Elizabeth Hand, just like an all around fantastic author, did write one of the she's like the first official like sequels to A Haunting on Hill House, right? Like the Shirley Jackson one. So no, she's amazing, and yeah, we're talking about like punk stuff in New York in the 70s and 80s. Sounds like the kind of thing you want to look at. Well, propaganda is not exactly from California, is it? Right? The books are called Generation Loss. Is the first one, the Cass Neary series. And they all have like photography titles, right? Like when it comes to like Generation Loss is like the thing that happens when you take copies of copies of copies. And I would have to look up the rest, but yeah, the Cass Neary series by Elizabeth Hand. And Hand is like hand, so look them up. And it's about New York punk stuff and photography. um so here's the thing about like New York punk, or before New York punk. And I don't know if you guys know about the band is called Dust. If you don't know about Dust, that is fine. But there's like two reasons to know about Dust. Reason one is like they have like two albums, and both have like cover artworks that have like Frank Frazetta pictures as cover artworks. So if it's Frank Frazetta, right? Like it's as fantasy as sword and sorcery as you can get, right? Which is like the one reason. The other part, okay, so let me split this. So the other part is that the drummer of Dust ended up being the drummer of the Ramones. So yeah, he played in like a fucking prog rock band before doing Ramones stuff, which is just 4/4s and stuff. The weird part is the singer, who ended up being like a big time music producer, who actually did like the productions for most of like the early 80s Michael Jackson recordings. My point is, check out fucking Dust. They're so, like, I did not get a chance to actually mention them in like my music songs that like do stuff for me kind of fucking video thing. But like Dust, you should know about them. They're fucking amazing. So he like that's the thing. Like if you want to know like a 70s band that is both like the production values are insane, like really good. Like there's a reason the singer like ended up being like the main producer for like Michael Jackson, right? Like it's not because he was cool. It was mostly because he actually knows what he's doing. But like stuff like Suicide, which is an amazing song, and well, Learning to Die and all these other, like seriously, like check out fucking Dust. Is it like Frank Rosetta covers for the album artworks? They have like two albums, and yeah, the drummer ended up being, you know, a Ramone. Yeah, it's its whole thing, but like, no, like, seriously, let me find this. Let me do like a reasonable thing, right? Like for a second, right? Um, uh, all right, I'm gonna send you like the link to Learning to Die, which is, and I'm gonna put that in the chat, and you can listen to that later on. But like, this is like a 1970s thing, right? This is I'm gonna get you that, and you listen to that at some point. So I don't know, like I just like this year in summer I saw Agnostic Front, which is, as New York as it gets, and as New York hardcore as it gets, which I love. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen Agnostic Front live, but like, holy shit, they're so much fun. They're also like one of the like most authentic kind of people I've ever seen. Like, I saw them back in the day, like not that much back in the day, but like around 2010 ish, and they played in like my town in like a small club. It's like a 300 people kind of place, like no barriers, no nothing, like stage and maximum 300 people. And it was obviously like sold out as fuck. And that's, where Agnostic Front played. And I guess like Ben definitely understands what I mean, but like that was like insane. Like it was in July. It was like 35 fucking degrees in like, human degrees, and I guess it's like close to 100 in like American degrees. I don't know, but like you do that and you have like from the East Coast to the West Coast and people go insane, right? Like it's hard to explain that. I have read The Expanse, Thornell. I think it's okay. I think it starts really good and it gets really bad. The final one is not very good. But it is like a very like readable kind of thing. So I'm not gonna shit too much on The Expanse, but I've read it. I have like lots of extra patches. That's not the problem. Just send me a message about like your address and stuff. Those might be like really obscure shit though. I hope your kid is like fine with that, right? Does your kid know about Skyclad? Is like one of those questions. They should maybe because like I don't have like cool patches. I have like weird patches, is what I'm saying. But I'll gladly send you like a bunch of like shit, right? That's fine. One of the things like that fucking Blackie Lawless from like Wasp was actually part of like the New York Dolls for a while, I think. Yeah, fucking Madball is like Madball is Eddie from Madball is like the singer from it's his younger brother, right? Like Madball's singer is the brother of Agnostic Front's singer, which is so funny. Anyway, now I saw just Agnostic Front live this year again, and like Agnostic Front is like obviously they love New York in like they're like very New York kind of thing. It's one of those like you hear them talking like there's like a caricature of like a New York accent, and there's like about like two people who have that who are far beyond like any reproach because they are just like as New York as it can get. And one of them is Robert Caro, writer of The Power Broker and all of that kind of stuff. And the other one is the singer of Agnostic Front. But those people, they sound like you think about like a New York accent and you turn up that one up to 11 and they sound like that. But because they are as New York as they are, you're like, yeah, I guess that's fine. So yeah, Bex, send me an address on like Discord and I'll send you some like obscure patches and shit for your kiddo. The thing is, like, they can use that, but I expect them to also listen to the bands that those patches are in, the thing, which is kind of things like you don't need to actually like that, but you need to know what it's about. Is what I'm saying, right? Anyway. Oh yeah, California über alles. The thing is, like, I'm like, I've been all over the place. I've been listening to like a lot of like really cool like Tunisian folk metal, which is something I like. Um, anyway, I've also been listening to Wolves in Wolves Clothing by NoFX for a lot of times, and Leaving Jesus Land is such a like an amazing song, and I wish the rhyme of like no longer swelt, they gotta punch new holes in the Bible Belt is just like one of those like holy shit. You're as insulting as it gets, but it's also so good and so clever. And anyway, now um listen to Mono No Facts. I'm just having so much fun, and I feel like like Wolves in Wolves Clothing is such a good like album in general. Like there's so much like clever stuff going on, and that one and Coaster are so good. I feel like what happened afterwards, like self effort, are not as good, but like those two, like Coasters, like Coast Wolves in Wolves Clothing are just so fucking amazing. All right, now you know about like punk rock. I just want to like be before we like leave this and like end this and everything, right? Like when I did the whole like music thing, like tag video, right? Um, the first song, not the first song, no, the first song, right? Like the slime one I mentioned, right? That is actually illegal in Germany. I just, you know, that is actually banned in Germany. So, you want to listen to some really, you know, stuff that is illegal in Germany, which is all about, fighting the cops and building Molotov cocktails and stuff. That's what I was listening to when I was like 12 years old. And, but it's so fascinating because what's so interesting about the whole thing is that it took the state of Germany like 30 years to actually ban the entire record. So it was published in 1989, 81, right? In 1981, right? And there were like several like different situations where like cops just confiscated all the records at a specific record store because it's the 80s, so you go to like a specific record store, you capture everything, and it's like I guess you were going because how they gonna spread that shit, right? But they never actually tried to get it officially banned by the law. And then they tried with one of the songs from that record, and the German like court. What's the term? Um, sorry, I'm trying to try to translate that into English. Anyway, um, so the main court was like, no, this is this is fine. This is like free speech. You got to live with that shit. And they had to live with the fact that, like, talking about the fact that, we might want to, destroy Germany as a country, is fine. And then they actually got it banned in 2011. In 2011. And the album was like published in like 1981, right? So, and I got lucky to actually get like a CD that was like sort of like in this weird, like mid stuff between like getting stuff confiscated and shit, before it was officially banned, and I have one of those. And yeah, no, it's all about, fighting fascism, cops, and the state, and stuff. But like, that's kind of that's where I'm coming from. That's sort of like what I was listening to when I was like 12 years old, right? And Wolves in Wolves Clothing is so fucking good. Yes. No, I was I love it. It's so good over the overall, because there's so much like really good stuff happening on that album. No, no, like Wolves in Wolves Clothing is definitely one of my favorite like new NoFX albums. And no, I said no longer svelte. They gotta punch new holes in the Bible Belt is just like one of those like really clever lines where I'm like, holy shit, that was like insulting as fuck, but also like really good. And then you have like that the not the final one, the last one before that. I have no idea what it's called. The one where it's, when I going through all the people that know and have known that like passed away through drugs and shit. And it's sort of like the thing that I love about NoFX is like they're like the most antisocial motherfuckers out there, but they also are the people that have like a heart of gold, right? Like it's like they might be as politically incorrect as you can be, but they'll also be on the right side whenever it actually counts. And that's NoFX. And all the shit around that is, yeah, is fucking NoFX, which is, why at at their farewell tour, fucking Fat Mike was like spending like 5 minutes to just like insult fucking Anti-Flag for betraying him, because that shit matters, right? And that's kind of the thing why I'm, at the end of the day, why I'm, a NoFX fan, why I'm a Bad Religion fan, why I'm a Propaganda fan. At the end of the day, it's not so much about like what you can do on your instruments. It's about your attitude. It's about your integrity. And NoFX have that integrity. Bad Religion have that integrity. Propaganda have that integrity. Pennywise are mostly having that integrity, but they sometimes too drunk and too drugged to actually, you know, adhere to that. But like that's kind of where we're at. And what I care about is integrity at the end of the day. I have not read that one, Thornall. I don't know. That's something like Ben. I agree. Like Greg Graffin's solo stuff is so good. Cold as a Clay is like such an amazing album. Like seriously, that's anyway. No, um, I remember that like seriously, like I was at a it was at one of those Punk and Drublic festivals that NoFX did in Europe, and it was Bad Religion co-headlining for NoFX, and before that it was Pennywise and Bad Cop, and some other bands. It was good. Like all of it was amazing. And Fat Mike was like, "What's the best punk band in the world?" And everyone was like, "No Facts." And I was like, "No, you're wrong. The best punk band in the world is Bad Religion. We are the funniest punk band in the world." And no, he's right. Like, Bad Religion is not really funny, but they are like the best punk band in the world. They are. Like, I've seen them so many times, like, they'll absolutely fucking kill. They'll absolutely fucking slay everything. And there's no humor involved. There's a lot of like attitude involved. No Facts was always, you know, fuck it and humor and shit, which is amazing. And I love No Facts for that. But yeah, they're the funniest punk band in the world. They're not the best punk band in the world. Biggest, I don't know. I Here's the thing, like I don't feel that like producing an album makes sense within like the genres that I'm interested in. Like punk punk and heavy metal are not where you need a producer, right? Like you a good band knows what they're doing. They don't need a producer. They need a good engineer that makes like everything sound correct. And I don't have the skill set for that, but like you don't need a producer for that. Bex, you told me that you got your nose broken at the Blind Guardian show. I just saw Blind Guardian this year at Summer Breeze, and I lost my voice again because I had to sing, and I had to sing a lot and stuff. Because it's still Blind Guardian and stuff. But yeah, now like this year, like in May, I went to that show. It was like a punk hardcore whatever show, right? It was Dead Pioneers, which is an interesting sort of like performance art kind of thing, and really good. And there was like whatever they're called, the Iron Roses, whatever. It's Boys Fire's guy doing like folk punk, and I hated it because it was too kitschy and shit. And there was Comeback Kid, and Comeback Kid was in your face and brutal as fuck. And they had like the biggest fucking backdrop of the entire show, of the entire tour and everything. And then it was Propaganda. Propaganda did not have a backdrop at all. They didn't even do like a fucking sound check. They didn't do anything. It was just like propaganda, like four guys walking on the stage doing like an hour of like in your face hardcore punk and leaving. And then it was Pennywise, and Pennywise was great. And then El Jefe from NoFX came on stage and they played "Don't Call Me White," and I was like, "Fuck yeah, fuck yeah, fuck yeah!" And yeah, so it was no, it was awesome, is what I'm saying. I did enjoy that a lot. Like the anti-flag thing is just so fucking ridiculously bad, right? Like, I mean, I assume you know about like the whole thing about like anti-flag and the singer, being a bit of a well, being a creep and a sexual abuser and everything, and how anti-flag just like deleted everything offline, online, and everything. And the thing with like NoFX was like on NoFX's like farewell tour, like Mike was like did like a like 2 3 minute like whole thing explaining why he fucking hates anti-flag now, because Mike did like buy out anti-flag from fucking their fucking major label that they were on, to get them back onto like a punk rock label. He did all of that, and then he was like, yeah, I guess I supported a fucking creep. And beyond anything else, and all the weirdness and all the shit and all the drug abuse and all the other stuff, like Fat Mike does have like a spine, right? He does have like integrity at the end of the day. And yeah, which is like why I respect NoFX. At the end of the day, it's like I love the music, but like I also know that like no, it's gonna be fucked up, but you know they're good people at the end of the day. Yeah, but that's the thing is like mm, Mike got like really pissed off about the whole thing, because like I mean, yeah, he went out on a limb to actually buy and have like out of that deal to get them back on like a punk label, and then something like that happens. So yeah, I get why he was frustrated, and even like a couple of years, like 2 years later on the farewell to, he was still like, yeah, fuck Justin. Which, I respect, because at the end of the day, as fucked up as NoFX have always been, and as fucked up as Fat Mike has always been, like, the heart has always been in the right place. The liver, probably not. So yeah, that's the thing. Anyway, uh, I agree with Bex. Like, not with Bex, like with Ben at this point. Like, Bad Religion is. I mean, I assume Bex also agrees, but like, Bad Religion is just like I don't know what to do. Like, they're just so good. It's like, um, and I was surprised by how good Pennywise were actually because I've seen Pennywise before and they were like really bad and really drunk and chaotic and stuff. Like maybe actually being on tour kind of helped them, but you know it was good. It was fun. I had fun, and the whole like "Don't call me white, no effects" part with El Jefe was a bonus. And El Jefe said like we're gonna be back with like new no effects songs, and Barcelona has been published since then. So I don't know. Slade, fucking Slade are so fucking amazing. I feel like Slade is one of those bands like people are not aware that they exist, and until they hear the songs and they're like, oh wait, th- there has to be like a band that actually wrote all of these songs, and that's when people realize that Slade actually does exist. But yeah, no, Slade is fucking amazing. I did see whoever is still like doing Slade things under the name of Slade in Wrocław, in Poland, which Wrocław is me trying to not say the German word, but anyway, I saw them there together with the Polish blues band called Jim. And don't try to actually Google that because it's it's spelled DCM. It's anyway. So I went there with my partner at the time, and yeah, I saw Slade. Whoever is still in Slade at this point, which probably like one or two people. Anyway, let's slowly wind this down. I yeah, I'm going to do nothing tomorrow because like booktube is going to do booktube things, and booktubers are not ever going to talk to me, which is how it works. And I have an idea for like a video that will be really fun if it works out the way I think, but that's something I gotta figure out tomorrow. And beyond that, I'll just read some books over the next week, and maybe I'll do the whole like Earthsea thing before I go to the festival. And right after the festival, I have to do the tooth surgery when they you know screw in the new like screw in the new implant kind of thing. So I don't know if I'll be able to talk after that, which you know who knows. So, yeah, I'm gonna think of something over the next couple of days. But yeah, I know. Read Golgotha by Lavi Tidar because it is really, really good, and I wish more people would read it. And I like seriously, like published on fucking Bloomsbury, like it's a big deal, and I was the first person to actually rate it on Goodreads on the day after its official release. It's like the fuck went wrong with like your, PR campaign? Did you do one? Does it exist? I don't know. I don't know. It was like weird. No, no, Ben. I've listened to the sound of a wild snail eating. I just need to figure out what to say about it. But like, I've listened to it. I might just like message you tomorrow about it in detail. But yeah, I've done it. I have opinions and stuff. But yeah, I've done it. Anyway, guys, it's been fun. I hope you had fun. I'm gonna figure out how to actually finish this thing and close it, and then yeah, I'm just gonna go to sleep and shit. I'm totally gonna ignore the fact that I uploaded like a video and did not actually do any of the other things that YouTube wants me to do, because I might just do that tomorrow in my time zone. Who knows? Anyway. I'm gonna figure something out tomorrow, and if it works, I have like this really funny idea about like a video thing I want to do. It may involve me also having to go to like a tobacco store and actually getting like tobacco for a pipe and stuff. It's gonna be like very wizardry, but it kind of depends on getting shit figured out, I guess. Anyway, thanks so much for hanging out. I do really, really, really appreciate it. You know how hard it is to actually end this? Here's a button. I'm gonna use that. It says end stream. I hope it works. Who knows? Anyway, thanks so much. I love you guys.